Winter has officially arrived, even though we had a couple of days last week that it was in the 60s. It's kind of hard to believe. And I like to have some decor pieces that I can put up after Christmas that look good all the way until spring. So I have several projects and ideas for you guys today that I really think you will enjoy. These are all winter inspired and have a farmhouse vibe to them. Thank you for stopping by Lavender and Lace. I'm Alicia. Please give this video a thumbs up if you like today's projects, and I hope you will consider subscribing if you haven't done so already. And a big welcome back to all of my viewers that come and see me each week. And without further ado, let's get started with these wintry projects. So for this project, you will need a couple of these boxes that you can find from Hobby Lobby. I thought these would be perfect for shadow boxes. So I just removed all of the labels that come with these, and they had a little piece of cardboard on the hanger. So I just removed all of that, and I also took off the hanger so I could stain these a little bit easier. And I just stained the outside of these boxes with my antique wax from Waverly. Just removed any of the excess with a paper towel, and you could stain the back of these if you wanted to. I just opted not to do that. And I also stained the inside of each of the edges of my box as well. I didn't worry about that back portion because I will be covering that up in just a little bit with some scrapbook paper. And this scrapbook paper came in a pack, I want to say from Hobby Lobby a couple of years ago. I just like the vintage designs that this one had. And I took a smaller piece and just put that down on kind of the inside edges of my box. Just pressed firmly to give me some indentations so that I would be able to cut out my paper to fit in the back of my box. And sometimes if you do that method, you will have to just cut a little bit extra pieces off of there to get your fit right with your paper. And then I just used an Elmer's glue stick to glue down my cardstock to the back of my shadow box. And I did take some more of that antique wax and just go around all of the edges of my scrapbook paper just to blend that in a little bit better with all of the edges of my shadow box. This also just gives that paper a little bit of distressing and vintage vibes that I like in my decor pieces. And I had found some of these wooden snowmen and little mini wooden trees. The bigger ones I got from Hobby Lobby, and the smaller snowmen and the trees I got from Dollar Tree. So I just painted all of the top hats with my Waverly chalk paint in the color ink. And I painted all of their bodies with my chalk paint in the color Snow White. And I painted those little mini snowmen those same colors. You could totally change up the colors of the top hats on your snowmen if you wanted to. Blues and greens would be really good colors, I think, for this project. And for my little mini trees, I used my Waverly chalk paint in the color Fern and just painted all of those. I did 2 coats on my trees, and the snowmen bodies I did 2 coats of the white just to get complete coverage on those. And then I went back in with some of that white chalk paint again and just put some snow here and there on the top hats of my snowmen. And I also added a little bit of snow to each of my trees as well. And once I had everything painted, I just started going and placing those in different areas, doing a dry fit in my shadow box, putting different sizes beside each other here and there, seeing what I thought looked cute. And I had several different sizes of bottle brush trees that I got from the Dollar Tree as well. So I just stuck those around, kind of played with that placement for just a little bit, and then I started gluing everything down with some hot glue. And I also glued just a few pieces on the top of my shadow box as well. I thought that was just a really cute addition to this project. And I wanted these shadow boxes to, of course, look snowy. So I just put some hot glue in different areas and put down some of the faux snow that I found at the Dollar Tree. Just in a few areas. I didn't want to have too much because I wasn't sure how well this would stay, and I didn't want to have snow everywhere. And I made 2 of these shadow boxes, and I have a matching set now, and I think these turned out super cute. I just love this snowy scene in these boxes. What do you guys think about this one? The end of the year is almost here, and I am getting closer to my goal of 3,000 subscribers, and I would love your help to hit that number. All you have to do is comment on this video, give it a thumbs up, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And you can also share this video if you know someone else that would like this content. And I really appreciate your support in helping my channel to grow. Now let's get back to the winter projects. So as a crafter, I am always on the lookout for anything that I could DIY with or do an upgrade to, just something to kind of make it my own. So I found this book stack at a thrift store when we were on vacation, and it did need a little bit of cleaning. So I tried to remove all of the scratches and dirt and things with just some disinfecting wipes and got this ready to paint. And I painted the entire surface with a couple of coats of my Waverly chalk paint in the color Snow White. And sometimes when I am painting and doing projects and things, if I don't have a lot of time, I like to use my small heat gun just to dry that paint in between coats or just to finish the drying so I can continue working on my project. And I took a toothpick to help me kind of clean up those areas in between each of the layers of the books. Just in those indentations, some of the paint had kind of seeped in there and dried, so I just used that toothpick to kind of clean that up a little bit and give me a cleaner finish for each of my books. And I took some of my Waverly antique wax and just did a little bit of distressing and kind of light dry brushing over the entire surface of my book stack, just around the edges and the top. And I also went in the areas for each of the separate books, tried to make those look a little bit more defined. And to get my artwork on my book stack, I used my tissue paper technique. I just applied a piece of tissue paper to some regular computer paper. Be sure if you do this that you print on the matte side and not the shiny side of your tissue paper. Just use some tape, washi tape, scotch tape, whatever that you have on hand to adhere your tissue paper to your printer paper. And you will want to let your design dry for at least 30 minutes. Longer if you have the time. That will just prevent any of your ink from bleeding when you apply your Mod Podge to finish your project. And I just put my design on the top of my book stack and just cut that out that way instead of tracing this out. This was just what I decided to do the day I was working on this project, and I just cut that out to where it would fit on the top of my books. And I applied a very thin layer of Mod Podge to the top of my book stack. And you can also choose to let your Mod Podge dry and just iron on your tissue paper after that. But for this project, I opted just to immediately apply that tissue paper to that Mod Podge. and I just smoothed that out as well as I could with my fingers. I did still get some kind of wrinkles and bubbles in that tissue paper, but I was okay with that for this project. I wanted this to look kind of like like a worn book that had been well loved and read for several years. And once that Mod Podge was dry, I just took a piece of sandpaper and went around all of the edges and just removed any of that excess tissue paper. And I went into my Cricut design space and just typed out 3 phrases that I thought would be cute as book titles for winter, and I just applied those with some of my paper transfer tape that I like to use for these projects. And the Y for stay cozy on cozy, it did not cut out well with the vinyl that day. I don't know, it's probably because it was so small and thin. So I just took one of my fine tip Sharpies and fixed that Y, and you can't even tell that I did that touch up. And just to seal in my design on the top, I did another thin coat of Mod Podge. And just for some decoration on my book stack, I took some of this navy blue satin ribbon and also some burlap ribbon that I got from the Dollar Tree, and just cut those into links that would wrap around all of my books, and then I can glue them on the back. And I did glue my burlap ribbon on the front of my book just to keep it in place so that it wouldn't slide off the edge. And just for a final decorative touch, I made just a couple of simple shoelace bows with my blue ribbon and some jute twine, and just glued those to the top left corner of my book stack. And this one is ready to go. What do you guys think about this project? I love how this one turned out, and I love the design on the front. And in the wintertime around here, it is definitely snuggle weather. What about where you guys live? I found this tree skirt at Dollar General, and I love the pattern and the fabric of this one. This is kind of a canvas type fabric, so I knew that I would be able to cut this down and use it for this project. I didn't know exactly how I needed to go about that, so I just started cutting this tree skirt down into smaller pieces that were easier to work with. And I used my rotary blade for that. If you guys don't have one of those for fabric projects, I highly recommend that you get one. It's just a lot easier to cut down pieces of fabric with one of those. And I did cut off the trim around the tree skirt as well. This just made it easier to get that front and back piece apart, so I could work with both of those. And then I started cutting my sections into smaller rectangles, and I did one horizontal and one vertical. I had enough fabric to make 2 pillows with this tree skirt, and I actually had some fabric left over for other projects. You could totally do whatever size that you want to for this project. I don't remember the exact dimensions for these, but I just worked with what size I had of tree skirt. And since this had rounded edges, I kind of had to go by the shape that I had and work with the surface area that I had with those fabric pieces. And then just for the backing for my pillows, I just laid that top piece over the actual backing that came with the tree skirt and just cut that out to match. And I did that for both of my pillows. And I measured each of my pillow covers to get the dimensions that I would need for my iron-on vinyl. And then I just went into my Cricut design space and found a couple of designs that I liked that looked well together, and just cut that out with some iron-on vinyl. And to get my pillow covers ready, I used my Easy Press and just heated that for, I don't know, 30 seconds, 45 seconds, and got some of those wrinkles out of my fabric before I applied my vinyl. And I just centered my design on the front of my pillow covers. And I just used the manufacturer's instructions to iron on this vinyl. Be sure you read those for whatever brand and type of vinyl that you get. I have ruined several projects before when I would get in a hurry and not look at those instructions. And this one was a cool peel vinyl, so I just peeled that up after it had cooled off just a little bit. And I love the way this one looks. This one is cozy winter vibes. These are just really cute decorative pillows that you can add to your decor. And to put those together, I just flipped that top piece upside down, and I used these Wonder Clips to clip all of my edges together just to hold that in place for me to sew it. And I will see if I can find a link for these and leave them in the description box. I got these on Amazon, and these are perfect for any of your fabric or sewing projects that you might do. And I just made sure to trim up any of that backing that I may have not measured correctly and had it a little bit off from the front piece there. And be sure that you leave an opening somewhere on one of the sides of your pillow covering. I typically like to do that on the bottom. And I just took this to my sewing machine and sewed around all of the edges for both of my pillow covers. And I just trimmed off any of those loose threads, and I also trim off those corners as well. It just makes that easier when you're turning it to get those pushed out nicely and have a clean finish to your pillow. So you'll just carefully turn your pillow cover right side out. Try not to pull this too hard, or sometimes you might pop those seams that you have just worked hard to sew. And I am not a master seamstress by any shape or form. I don't do a lot of sewing. I can sew a straight line, that's pretty much it. So I like to do simple projects like this, nothing too complicated. And once you have your pillow covers turned right side out, all you have to do is stuff them. I use some of the polyfill stuffing that you can find at craft stores, Walmart, wherever. If you don't have any of that on hand, you could use the stuffing from an old pillow. And I like to use something that's a little bit longer to help me get the stuffing into the corners. So I just grabbed a spatula when I was working on these, and that worked well to get all of that stuffing to the furthest end of my pillow. And just to close up that seam on the bottom of each of my pillows, I just used some fabric hot glue and closed that up. And these are ready to be displayed and go out with the rest of my winter decor. What do you guys think about these? This next project is one of the easiest DIYs that I think you can do, and I love doing these for different seasons and holidays. All you need to do is pick up some frames that you really like at the Dollar Tree. They normally have a lot of different options to choose from. just take apart your frame and clean your glass really well. And I also cleaned the front part of these frames. Sometimes they're a little bit dusty or just have some of the, I guess, the cardboard pieces that kind of come loose in the packaging. So just be sure that you clean everything really well. And you could paint these if you wanted to, if you don't find ones that you really like the color. And I just found some really cute designs on Creative Fabrica that I liked for wintertime, and I will leave a link for those as well for you guys in the description box. And I just sized those to fit into these frames, and I just traced around the backing of each of my picture frames and just cut out my designs, my images. And then all you have to do is put those back in your frames. Easy peasy. You can have this done in maybe 10 minutes or less. It does take me a little while to decide what image or design that I want to put in these frames, but this is just a very super easy, really quick project that you can do. I love how these turned out. I just love the designs. I really like how these look like watercolor prints, so you can take just a few materials that you have on hand and create some beautiful decor. What do you guys think about these? For this project, you will need one of the dome cloches that you can get from the Dollar Tree, as well as one of their smaller glass candle holders. And you'll also need some small items that will fit inside of this. And I found this cute little snowman in the house pick at Walmart. And I also had some bottle brush trees and some smaller trees and snowmen left over from other projects. And to clean that sticker off the vase or the candle holder, I used actually some sugar scrub that I had on hand, and that worked really well to remove all of that adhesive from the sticker. And you can use that if you don't have any of the Goo Gone or anything like that. It just worked really well for me for this project. And I wanted to make sure all of my items were going to fit inside my snow globe. So I did just a dry fit with everything. Of course, I didn't measure exactly correct with this tree. You'll see why in just a little bit what I had to do with that. And I just glued everything down with some hot glue. I had some of those very small bottle brush trees that came from the Dollar Tree, and I also had some of those little mini snowmen and the wooden trees as well that came from the Dollar Tree. Those are just great to have on hand for these small projects like that. And here is where I realized my mistake. I was like, well, I should have put that on there before I glued the tree down to see if that tree was going to be too tall. So what I had to do is I just used one of my little Cricut spatulas and just popped that tree off of the base, and then I just took it out of the base. I should have cut down the tree just a little bit more because it still didn't fit too well inside my snow globe, but you know, you live and learn with these projects and things, so I will know exactly what to do the next time I make one of these. Just re-glued that with some hot glue and put some of that faux snow that you can get from the Dollar Tree into the top of my little vase, candle holder, whatever we want to call that. And I secured the base to the globe with some hot glue. And I didn't have a good seal on that, I guess. I had thought I would use some E6000 to begin with, but it still didn't fit completely flush together. So I just took a little bit of my white hot glue, just went around all of the edges of my snow globe to cover up the regular hot glue that I had used to attach these. And this one is finished. I think it is super cute. It looks really good with all of my other winter decor on my corner shelf. What do you guys think about this one? I started this project in Cricut Design Space and found 3 different tree shapes that I liked, and I sized those to what I thought would be good sizes for this project, and I needed a front and back piece, so I just duplicated each of my images. And I like to always check and make sure on the display on my mats that these are in the right places. Sometimes they put things a little too close together, so I can move those around if I need to. And then I just selected fabric for these. I'm going to be cutting these out with some different patterns of fabric that I had in my stash, and most of these came from the Dollar Tree. And I just cut down those pieces into smaller sections so they would fit on my fabric mats. Just used my ruler and my rotary blade for this, and just cut those down into 12 by 12 squares. And you will want to use fabric mats for this project. You can get those from Cricut, and they also have several different brands on Amazon. And I used my brayer just to make sure my fabric was stuck really well to my mat, and I got out any wrinkles or anything like that out of my fabric, because that would prevent my blade from cutting my design correctly. And just repeated that for all of my different types of fabric that I am working with. And I also needed to change out my blade on my Cricut Maker. It's just really easy to pop out whatever blade that you had in there and just put in the rotary blade for fabric projects. And just loaded my mat and let my machine do all the hard work for this project. And once all of my fabric pieces were cut out, I just pulled off that excess fabric from the mat. And sometimes these rotary blades don't cut really well if it's kind of a smaller design or the angles on these trees. So I just like to have my scissors on hand to cut any of those pieces that the machine may not have cut. Just simply remove all of those from the mats. And to put all of my pieces together, I just used some fabric hot glue. I thought that would be a lot easier than trying to sew this on my sewing machine, and a lot quicker than trying to hand sew that. And this Dollar Tree fabric was pretty thin, so you might want to get your fabric from Hobby Lobby or maybe Walmart, just so it's not so thin. I was worried about these holding and staying together when I stuff them, but so far so good. And for these, I did not turn these like right side out. I just glued them the way I wanted them to be displayed, and just stuffed those with some of my polyfill stuffing, and just used the bamboo skewers to help me get that in the tops of my trees and all in the corners. And to decorate my trees, I just used some buttons that I had in my stash. I love buttons, and I have a lot of these on hand. I like to find different ones and different colors and designs of buttons and just keep them for projects. And I just glued those on with some hot glue. And I also took some of this burlap ribbon from the Dollar Tree and just added that to one of my trees as well, just to give that a little bit more texture and some extra dimension. And I thought this one looks really cute with that ribbon glued there. And for my last tree, I just put one larger button in the bottom corner. And to get these to be able to stand, I just put some of the bamboo skewers in there, and I measured those out and just cut the skewers down to a size that I liked. And then I just took some fabric hot glue and closed up that opening on the bottom of each of my trees, and this will just help that skewer to stay in place as well. And I had so much fun with this project. This was one of my favorites that I did for winter, and I get so many compliments on these, and everybody's like, did you make those? So these are definitely one that look high-end and store-bought. And to display these, I had some of these wood rounds that I had got in a pack from the Dollar Tree, and I just used a screwdriver or a nail, whatever that I had close by that I could put a hole in the base of these. And then I just added some hot glue to that and added each of my trees to those. And that is it for this project. I love how these turned out. Like I said, these are one of my favorite DIYs that I have made. These just add some really cute rustic charm to your winter decor. What do you guys think about this one? I found this cute little house at my local thrift store and I picked that up for 50 cents. And it said Merry Christmas on there, so of course we're going to be giving this a winter makeover. So I just popped those roof pieces off and took one of my disinfecting wipes and cleaned that off a little bit because it was dirty. And I noticed it had some of those little pegs in the top. And I don't show you guys this on camera, but I did take a hammer and kind of nailed those in once I pulled up the paper, which I just went in and removed all of that paper from the top part of my little house. And I just took my sanding block and removed all of that paper and got a clean surface to paint. And I used my Waverly chalk paint in the color plaster and did 2 coats to get complete coverage on my house. And while that was drying, I grabbed 2 of these wooden snowflakes that I got in a large pack from Hobby Lobby and just used my Waverly antique wax and gave those one good coat of that. And then after those were dry, I just took some glitter glue and gave those a little bit of sparkle. I thought this was a really cute touch instead of adding like Mod Podge and sprinkling glitter. This was just an easy way to get that glitter on these snowflakes and not have a mess everywhere. I'm not a huge fan of glitter, but I do like it in my winter and Christmas projects. And then for my house, I just took one of my chalk couture silkscreen transfers, and this is like the wood plank design. And I just went over the entire surface of my house and I used that black chalk paste. I love using Chalk Couture. You can find a lot of different designs and things on their website. I typically don't buy them when they are just released. I wait until they go on sale because these can be a little bit pricey. But I will leave a link for the Chalk Couture website if you guys want to check that out. And you can also find different silkscreen transfers on Amazon as well. I have ordered several of those and I think they work just as good as the Chalk Couture ones. And my house was looking a little plain at this point, so I grabbed some fabric and also some faux leather. I like to use different kinds of materials, different textures on my projects. I think that just really gives it a cute kind of farmhouse look. So I just cut out a small piece of my fabric to go over kind of just the bottom section of my house. And then I just cut out a smaller strip of this faux leather. I love this stuff. It comes in so many different colors. It's great to have on hand for all kinds of different projects. So if you see it at your Dollar Tree, be sure that you grab some. And to attach my fabric piece, I just used some of my Eileen's tacky glue. And I used a little bit of that tacky glue as well as some hot glue to attach my leather piece. I love small projects like this. You can make them in no time at all and they look great in smaller areas of your house and on tiered trays. And I just reattached my roof pieces with some hot glue. And I played around with the placement of my snowflakes to see where I thought they would look the best. And I glued those on with some hot glue as well. And I also used one of those small little half wooden beads just to give a little bit of height to my other snowflake. And just glued that one onto that bead with some hot glue. And this little wintry house is finished. It looks great with all of my other winter DIYs that I have been working on. Just a really cute addition to my decor. What do you guys think about this one? For this project, I grabbed two of the smaller wooden planks that you can find at the Dollar Tree and just sanded off any of the rough edges. And I stained these with my Waverly Antique Wax. I just did front and back and all of the sides. And I used some more of that fabric that I had picked up from the Dollar Tree. And again, this fabric is very thin, so you can see that you could see my cutting mat through that fabric. So I decided to kind of fold that over into thirds and just put a seam down the back of this that just allows me to not see through that fabric, and I thought that looked a little bit better. So I just folded that down and I ironed those edges just to get a nice crease. And I was just kind of playing around with the placement of where I wanted my wood pieces to go. I'm going to be making one of the fabric hanging signs that you see in different stores and things. So I was just playing around with the placement of that, and then I just cut out some vinyl with my Cricut Maker. I had found this quote that I really liked, and I cut out some snowflakes as well to go with that. And I just trimmed up my fabric, and I actually cut this a little bit shorter than I intended to, but it still looks good. The finished product looks really nice. I'm happy with that. And these pins are awesome for sewing projects. They are, how do I say this? You can remove those marks with heat so you don't see them. I will see if I can find a link for those. I don't really remember where I found those. They may have been a gift, but if I can find them, I will leave that link for you guys in the description box. And I just got my fabric ready to iron on my vinyl. Just did a little bit of preheating and removing those wrinkles, and just ironed all of my vinyl down in the places where I wanted it to be. And once I had all of my designs ironed on, I wanted to make sure that those back edges were put together and secured. So I just used some fabric hot glue to do that, and that just kept these loose edges connected. And of course I didn't do that before I ironed on the vinyl, otherwise my heat press would have just made that come apart again. And then to attach my wood pieces to my sign, I just laid them where I wanted them to go and just used some hot glue to attach that to my fabric piece. And then I just added a double strand of jute twine on the back of my sign so this can be hung up and displayed. And that is it for this project. Another super simple idea with just a few materials that you might already have on hand, and you can make some beautiful decor pieces. What do you guys think about this one? This project is super simple and comes together in no time at all. I grabbed some of my letter tiles and I picked these up from the Dollar General store usually. You could also find Scrabble games or something like that at a thrift store, and you would definitely want to pick those up and have all of those letter tiles on hand for projects. And I also have a jumbo popsicle stick and just a couple of those wooden snowflakes. I just laid everything out on that popsicle stick just to get it lined up and see where it looked the best. And then I just took my miter shears and cut off the ends of that popsicle stick and used my sanding block to sand away those rough edges. And then I just stained my popsicle stick with some of my Waverly antique wax. This would be a fun project to do with your kids, and I've seen these even with the smaller popsicle sticks, and people sell these in local stores here, so these are definitely something good that you could make and make a lot of these at one time and have them ready to go for craft shows and things like that if you chose to do that. And I also grabbed some of these small wooden blocks that you can get in a pack from the Dollar Tree and stained them as well. And I painted my snowflakes with my Waverly chalk paint in the color Snow White. And you may have noticed that one of my letter tiles was a P and I needed that to be an R. So I just took one of my fine tip Sharpies and just fixed that. You can easily do that with these letter tiles, no problem at all. And once again, I was just lining everything up to see where I wanted that to go on my sign, and just glued everything down with some hot glue. And I took a little bit of this lace ribbon that you can find at the Dollar Tree. This is one of my favorites. I just think this one looks very farmhouse. Sadly, I have not been able to find any of this lately. My Dollar Tree is actually still closed from damage that they got from Hurricane Helene, so I am definitely looking at other stores for this ribbon. And then I just glued those wood blocks on the back of my sign, and this one is ready to be displayed, and this one fits perfectly in a small area in my dining room. What do you guys think about this one? So that wraps up the winter DIYs for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed these projects and they inspire you to make some winter decor. And I wanted to take just a second and wish all of you a very Merry Christmas, since this video is going to be up right before Christmas Day. I hope you and your family have a wonderful holiday together, and be sure that you remember the reason for the season. Please give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed today's projects, and I hope you will subscribe if you haven't done so already. Please connect with me on Facebook and Instagram. You can find the links for both of those in the description box, and I look forward to seeing you guys in the next one.